In South Korea, police raid the president's office over a failed attempt to impose martial law. And Israeli warplanes carry out heavy airstrikes across Syria. And the controversy over the repayment of Han Academy debentures continues. Hello and welcome to TVB News. South Korean police raided President Yoon Suk-yeol's office today as one of his top lieutenants tried to take his own life. This amid a widening investigation into Yoon's decision to declare martial law last week. Daniel Rao tells us more.
The raid marks a dramatic escalation of the probe against Yoon and top police and military officers over the martial law declaration that plunged South Korea into a constitutional crisis. The South Korean president is now the subject of a criminal investigation and is banned from leaving the country. However, he has not been arrested or questioned by authorities. Yoon, who has not been seen in public since Saturday, was absent during the police raid on his office. Meanwhile, an official said the defense minister at the time of the declaration, Kim Yong-hyun, attempted suicide using a shirt and underwear at a detention center where he is being held following his arrest on Sunday. The official said Kim was now under observation and his life is not currently in danger. Kim has resigned and apologized for his part in the short-lived imposition of emergency rule, saying he alone was responsible. South Korea's two highest police officers have also been detained. National Police Agency Commissioner General Cho Ji-ho and Kim Bong-sik, head of the Metropolitan Police Agency in Seoul, are being held at the capital's Namdaemun police station. They face investigations into their roles in deploying police forces to the National Assembly last week in an attempt to block lawmakers from entering the parliament to vote to lift the martial law decree. Dan Rahal, TV News.
The Biden administration said it will recognize and support a new Syrian government that renounces terrorism, destroys chemical weapons stocks, and protects the rights of minorities and women. This as Israel carried out a wave of heavy airstrikes across Syria as its troops advanced deeper into the country. Meanwhile, refugees from Syria's long civil war were making their way home as the new interim prime minister said he had been appointed with the backing of the rebels who toppled President Bashar al-Assad. Tracy Furness has more.
The Israeli military released several videos on Tuesday it claimed show strikes on Syria, including the port of Latakia. Israeli officials have said they are striking military targets, including heavy weapons, suspected chemical weapons sites, and air defense systems to prevent them from falling into the hands of extremists. Drone footage showed the badly damaged Syria Research Center in Damascus after overnight strikes by Israeli military. Residents around Qamishli airport in northeast Syria reported hearing violent explosions after airstrikes hit trucks loaded with ammunition and rockets that were headed to a military base in Tartab. This local resident said it was around 9 or 8:30 p.m. when we heard the sound of explosions in this area. We were surprised that it was on the highway. Israeli planes targeted these vehicles. We realized in the morning the trucks were loaded with ammunition, leftovers from the former army, the regime. Meanwhile, Mohammed al-Bashir, the leader of rebel group Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, or HTS, said he would lead Syria's interim government until March 1st. The Biden administration urged HTS, which ousted President Bashar al-Assad and other groups, not to assume automatic leadership of the country, but instead run an inclusive process to form a transitional government.
We don't want to give ISIS an opportunity to exploit what's going on. They love nothing more than ungoverned space. We want to make sure that all of Syria is properly governed and that the Syrian people, again, have a say in that.
This is hundreds of Syrian refugees gathered at a border crossing between Turkey and Syria on Tuesday, eagerly anticipating their return home following the fall of Bashar al-Assad's government. Many said they were uncertain about their country's future, but were cautiously optimistic. This Syrian refugee said, "There's uncertainty, but it has been 13 years. See these eyes? They're tired of crying." Tracy Furness, TVB News.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promised to knock down corruption allegations against him as he began testifying in his trial. He is the first sitting Israeli leader to take the stand as a criminal defendant. In his opening testimony in a packed Tel Aviv courtroom, Netanyahu argued that he was a dedicated leader and a defender of Israel's interests. He swatted away the charges against him as a drop in the ocean compared to the challenges he's faced protecting the country. Netanyahu will answer to charges of fraud, breach of trust, and accepting bribes in 3 separate cases. The testimony is another low point for Israel's longest-serving leader, who also faces an international arrest warrant for alleged war crimes in his country's war in Gaza. U.S. Missile Defense Agency successfully intercepted an air-launched intermediate-range ballistic missile target during a test off Guam. It's the first time that such an intercept test was held in that area. Guam, a U.S. territory in the Western Pacific, is a strategic military outpost located closer to China than to Hawaii. It plays a crucial role in maintaining U.S. presence in the region and deterring potential adversaries. The successful test underscores the Pentagon's commitment to bolstering Guam's defenses against evolving missile threats. The missile, made by RTX Corp, formerly Raytheon, successfully intercepted an air-launched medium-range ballistic missile target off the coast of Andersen Air Force Base. Chief Executive John Lee has left the city for Beijing on a duty visit. Lee arrived at Hong Kong International Airport around noon today. Sources say he could meet President Xi Jinping on Friday and give a report on the SAR's latest economic, social, and political situation. Among those accompanying Lee on the trip is Carol Yip, the director of the Chief Executive's office. Lee is expected to return to Hong Kong on Saturday. The Department of Justice will not seek a review of the sentences handed out in the national security case involving 45 Democratic figures in the city. The department said it is inappropriate to comment on whether the sentences were appropriate, as some defendants had lodged appeals. Out of the 45 defendants found guilty, 8 of them have filed an appeal against their sentences. Among them was Owen Chow, who received the second heaviest jail term of 7 years and 9 months. Helena Wong, Clarice Yeung, Winnie Yu, and Gwyneth Ho also appealed against their sentences. Former media tycoon Jimmy Lai today continued to take the stand to defend himself against national security charges. Today marks day 107 of Lai's trial. The defense said Lai's assistant, Mark Simon, notified Lai in July 2020 about a letter by former U.S. Consul General to Hong Kong and Macau, James Cunningham, which urged then U.S. President Donald Trump to take a stronger stance against Hong Kong. Lai replied that he was happy to hear about this. The former media tycoon explained in court that he was just being polite and had not intended to encourage Cunningham to take action. Lai also previously messaged Mark Simon, saying it was right for the U.S. to strip Hong Kong of its special status. Simon responded by noting that he would transfer the message to then U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo's assistants. Lai told the court that he wanted to understand the methods of the U.S. government before making any inferences. The controversy over the failure of a private school to repay parents for debentures continues. A group of parents called the police after failing to redeem debentures worth $5.8 million, and this happened after their children left the school. The school admitted it is facing financial difficulties and proposed to return the principal and interest by the end of 2029. As Celine Chan reports, no one has been arrested so far.
Han Academy was accused by parents of failing to repay the debentures purchased after their kids left the school. Other students went to the school as usual this morning. The academy issued a notice to parents on Wednesday admitting that it has financial difficulties and asked for parents' approval for the school's proposal of extending the expired debentures repayment to the end of 2029. Instead of paying parents' interest on a yearly basis, the principal and interest would be returned in whole after 5 years.
学校是很多人的学校。
Xu Li, founding chairman of Han Academy, admitted that the rights and interests of parents whose kids had left the school are very important. She said the school is trying to protect the rights and interests of all stakeholders and will not shirk its responsibility. Parental sources said the school admitted it is facing financial difficulties on Monday's parents' meeting, claiming they are in debt to the extent of $100 million, with around $80 million being debentures. Police say they have received 11 reports from residents so far who bought bonds worth about $5.8 million and couldn't redeem them. Authorities have classified the case as request for police assistance. The Education Bureau said it had asked the school to stop issuing debentures earlier. But according to the school's official website, the requirement to purchase debentures still appears under the admission application page.
原本發債嘅目的咧就話興建學校嘅設施嘅。
Barrister Albert Luke said if the academy used the debentures for purposes other than a stated one, it could have committed the offense of fraud unless it stated that the school has absolute right over the usage of the debentures. Fraud carries a maximum penalty of 14 years in prison. Secretary for Education Christine Chua reminded parents to pay special attention to the terms, contracts and financial situation of the private schools when they take part in financial plans and long-term projects of any private school. Choi stresses that the Education Bureau has been following up the situation at the school to ensure that teaching will not be affected. Celine Chan, TVB News.
Still ahead. A new bridge that cuts travel time between Zhuhai and Jiangmen opens to traffic. A fire in a residential building in Shenzhen's Nanshan district. Welcome back. Reports of a fire caused by an explosion at a residential building in Shenzhen. The incident happened in an upper-level flat of the building in Shenzhen's Nanshan district. Thick smoke billowed from the suspected site of the explosion, affecting most of the structure's upper floors. Fire service personnel said someone fell from the building during the fire. A number of residents have been evacuated from the building. Ho Yat-seng is going to step down after serving as Macau's chief executive for 5 years. In an earlier interview, Ho looked back on his push for the enclave's economic diversification. He also said during his term in office, the fiscal reserves saw an increase of 50 to 60 billion Macau patakas. Danny Zhou has the story.
For decades, the gaming industry has been the mainstay of Macau's economy. Recently, Macau Chief Executive Ho Yat-seng took questions from reporters at the celebration of the 25th anniversary of the city's return to Chinese rule. He mentioned that during his term of office, Macau's gaming law was amended. Along with a new round of casino license bidding, the gaming industry is now more tightly regulated. The revenue of the gaming sector bounced back in 2023, reaching around 75% of 2019 levels. And this accounted for 37.2% of Macau's GDP. Ho said there have been notable achievements in the SAR's economic diversification, particularly in performing arts. He said the remarkable increase in the number of concerts held in Macau is a boon to the city's overall sales, as well as its catering, housing, and gaming sectors. Ho said he hopes visitors will not only be drawn by the casinos, but they can also try local foods, tour around, and get a taste of Macau's East meets West heritage. During his 5 years in office, 3 were preoccupied by the fight against the COVID-19 pandemic. And the government took 160 billion patakas from the fiscal reserves to support work related to social welfare. He voiced his preference for a precision policy, which he says can allow the government to take targeted measures to solve problems and provide safety nets for those in need. He also said the Macau government remains in a strong financial position. The fiscal reserves have gained 50 to 60 billion patakas when compared with the pre-pandemic figures in 2019, and there is no debt to repay. The government has basically paid all the bills in its infrastructure development and economic housing projects. Ho said this is conducive to ensuring stability and sustainability of one country, two systems in Macau. He added that the building of the Guangdong-Macau in-depth cooperation zone in Hengqin has established a legal system that suits the paradigm of Macau while meeting mainland demands. Danny Zhou, TVB News.
The Huangmao Sea Channel Bridge, which links up two of Hong Kong and Macau's major neighboring cities, opened this afternoon. And it reports.
The Huangmao Sea Channel Bridge connects Zhuhai City and Jiangmen City with each other. The giant piece of infrastructure took over 4 years to build after construction began in June 2020. It was officially open to the public at 3 p.m. today. Many tourist buses and private cars already made their way to the starting point of Zhuhai Gaolan Port, hoping to witness the historical moment. This mainland tourist said he came to the bridge to familiarize himself with its layout, as he wants to use it to travel nearby to eat seafood. Another mainland tourist said she came to enjoy the scenery and take photos to post on social media. Some cars drove slowly to appreciate the view on the bridge. The traffic was mostly smooth, and drivers said the bridge was very convenient. This Hong Kong tourist said the bridge made traveling to Jiangmen or Zhanjiang for food very easy. This Taishan tourist said the bridge would help him save time during his frequent trips to Macau and Zhuhai. The Sea Channel Bridge is 31 kilometers long with a standard two-way 6-lane highway structure. Its construction cost 13 billion yuan. The bridge can reduce driving time between Zhuhai City and Jiangmen City from more than an hour to just 30 minutes. Crossing the bridge is currently free, but the government will later determine the toll fee for vehicles through a public hearing. Initial recommendations suggest private cars will be charged 33 to 34 yuan per journey. The most direct route from Hong Kong to the Sea Channel Bridge is through the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. At the surface area of this new bridge, over 100 parking spots are available. There are also 40 paid charging stations for electric vehicles to ensure drivers do not need to worry about where they can recharge their cars. Ann Ip, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.